I am here with Jamil Davis, and we are talking about the music business. How are you, sir?
I'm super well today, Wendy. And you?
I'm great, thank you. I've been doing interviews all day, but now I'm the interviewer instead of the interviewee, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, I love that. Who was interviewing you?
The one right before you was Forbes.
Oh, fire! Great. I
Yeah,
love that for you.
yeah,
Absolutely love that.
yeah. It's the third time that we've spoken. I'm a huge Forbes fan.
Mm-hmm.
I read it. So whenever somebody interviews me that I actually read myself, like NPR, I get real excited when NPR interviews me because I
Well,
love them.
NPR is rare too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. So who was
Yeah.
interviewing you there at NPR?
Marketplace. And I don't know why, because I haven't done anything spectacular lately. Like usually I'll do something big and I'll get interviewed. I don't know why all of a sudden people are coming to me. I think the Kendrick and J. Cole, well, not J. Cole anymore, but Drake beef is bringing out the mainstream media. So they're
Mm-hmm.
trotting me out.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I was talking to somebody last week from Billboard. This guy Carl, who runs their hip hop,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Yo, I've been." He's like,
Carl's
"I've
cool.
been." Yeah, Carl's great. He's like, "I've been doing more interviews than normal lately."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I've had people calling me too because I come from the '90s in hip hop. So like Rolling Stone and Billboard called. They wanted to know about what the industry was like because they're trying to put Diddy in context. And I'm like, I've never worked with him. I can't speak on him. They're like, no, we want to know what the vibe was in the industry in the '90s. So I've been doing a lot of reminiscing lately.
mm,
Yeah. When did you start in music?
like 2008ish, 9ish is when I got my
Wow.
first paying gigs. When I got my first paying gigs, it was 2008. I say
That's awesome. How did you start?
internships and just meeting people and being
That's
online
great.
on MySpace and being on MySpace and that's how people were discovering music. Um,
Yes,
well, that's how
very
people
much
were
so.
were not. Yeah, I would say discovering music, and then the easiest
Yes,
way to get in contact
with
with.
people.
It's the first time I think that you could get in contact with artists and their teams without having
Yes.
to like email a label. I think.
It's very true. And people would ignore emails. The thing that made like MySpace and even Facebook great is it gave you access to whoever you wanted, provided they would respond.
Right. And it gave you context to it's just like a DM now. I can see who's DMing me,
Yes. Yes.
and it's instead of just a code email.
Yes.
Yeah, it gives you context. That's a lot of how I choose. I won't say choose to who I respond to because a lot of it is just how the message is comes in, you know.
Yes.
And then if I do a deeper dive, I go to that person's page or whatever. Um, but it gives you context. MySpace it cut out the middleman.
Yes, it did.
You
It
know,
gave you direct access.
it cut out the middleman and also gave the artists and their teams a way to cut out the middleman. It was the first,
Yeah.
I guess, outside of if you had like a fan site, it was the first.
Yeah. Or you bump into them live
Right,
where they have to respond to you. It's like, hey, I'm so and so. Oh shit, you're in my face. Yeah.
right. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's that.
I think it made it easier for artists too, like unsigned artists when they wanted to get people to listen to their music.
Yeah, because you could send it to everybody. I forgot. I
Yeah.
forgot you could also send your music to everybody and send your shows to everybody. And it was the first. I won't say the first, but the first massive D2C.
Yes. Absolutely. So when you started, what did you do? Like you said you interned, did you intern at labels or management? Were you
I
always on the
interned
management
at
side?
labels and publishing companies, but when I started,
Ooh.
I had I was doing radio in college, so I had like a radio station in college, and I had a MySpace for the radio station,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
yeah,
Where did you go to college?
in New Orleans, it was called Dillard University.
I know where Dillard is. I've spoken there.
Oh,
Yay.
fire! Yeah, so I went to Dillard
Yeah.
University, and I um yeah, I went to Dillard and I started a MySpace, and that's how I was reaching out to bands.
That's really cool. Did you always know you wanted to be in music?
I think so. I didn't. I think so because I literally would think to myself, "What else am I capable of doing?" And
Yeah.
it was just like I couldn't see I didn't know what exactly in music. I knew like working with artists or something like that, but I just knew that was I couldn't. I didn't know another industry that I could be in.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I come to it from the culture side. Like I was a fan of hip hop before I ever worked in it.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I got to a point where I knew I wanted to do it. And like you, I didn't like there was nothing else I wanted to do. It was like this or nothing.
Yeah, you don't because you got to look. See, I wasn't any type of scholar by any means, right? I wasn't the best student, so it's just like, what can I do to where I could just um, be myself, and then actually, and also enjoy what I'm doing. And it was like, oh, it's just music.
How did you end up in management?
One, I always kind of knew I wanted to be in management or like help and talk to people.
Yeah.
But I ended up in management by my first artist I managed, this artist G-Eazy, which is how I know Catherine actually, because she was G's publicist for a while. And we went to college in New Orleans. He went there and I went there. And then we just ended up meeting in New Orleans. I had him on my radio show. And then we just became friends. And then
It's so cool.
yeah, and then it kind of evolved from there.
So you kind of grew together.
Oh, for sure. Gerald and I.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Like
And
that's
rare.
Yeah, for sure. Early on, I'd be like, "Damn, this is cool." I get to like grow and learn at the same time. I get to grow and learn at the same time as we're all growing and learn together. We're all in college.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you're still growing and learning together because I'm assuming that you're still learning because I know I am and I'm 100 years older than you are.
Oh, nice. I thought only like 1 or 2 years. I couldn't tell.
Okay, I love you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the sugar.
I'll pay you later for saying that.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, no. Yeah, you learn every day. Sometimes I got to remember, like every day is a day to learn. Again, I was never the greatest student.
But you're really sharp. So you're intelligent. You may not have been a great student, but
yes, I was the student
sharp.
that it was like, Jamel's a pleasure to have in class, but he doesn't pay attention, right? So learning is a little bit tougher for me. But it's important to learn every day. Sometimes I got to remind myself to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to write that down. It's so easy. Sometimes you got to write the easiest shit down and remind yourself.
Yeah. I have to put shit in my schedule to remind myself because if it's not there, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'll say, what a great idea that is. And then a year from now, I'll be like, whatever happened to that idea?
Oh, for me, it's like 5 years from now, 6 years from now. What happened to that idea from many years back?
Right.
Yeah.
At least you remember, though. At least you remember.
When I remember, I certainly remember.
What is your favorite part of management? Do you have a favorite part?
Being able to add value.
I love that.
In a way that being able to add value is my favorite part because and value could be business wise, value could be personally, value could be a connection, value could be an outlook or a perspective, value could just be being an ear, being able to add value that is appreciated and reciprocated.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
And you're really adding life-changing value.
Yeah, to those who want their lives changed and are down for the ride.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when you add that type of value to somebody, they're actually changing your life too. Because
Yes.
if somebody's life changes, and you had anything to do with that business wise, one, you get compensated, but personally, um, it's a fulfilling feeling.
Yes. Yeah. And I think fulfillment is really important because just the money is not enough.
I think fulfillment is
I mean,
like as you get older, and Mike Tyson said this in an interview. He's like, somebody's like, yo, look at this stuff. Look at all this stuff you have, right? And he's like, yo, it used to mean something. At one time it meant something. But now the only thing that fulfills me is like making sure I'm happy and making sure my kids are happy. And
wow.
as you get older, like all the accolades or the money or anything, that part, the physical part doesn't mean as much as because no physical can fulfill you. Um, but it's like what you did to be able to afford the physical
Yes.
is the fulfilling part.
Is the fulfilling part, the journey.
Yeah, yeah, because all the other stuff will come, God willing.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
You learned that early in life. That's awesome because you're pretty young.
Yeah,
It's rare to hear somebody say that.
I learned that. Well, I used to tell my dad uh like when new shoes or video games or any of that came out, and all
Yeah.
my friends wanted them, I'd be like, "Aren't you glad that I don't want anything?" Like as a high
Was he?
schooler, as a high schooler. I mean, as a
Yeah.
kid, I wanted toys and whatnot, but as
Yeah.
a high schooler, as I grew older, there was nothing that there was no physical thing that I wanted. I bought a house, which I was happy about. But then what's crazy? I dreamt about that house and worked so hard to get that house. And once I got it, I was like, okay, I thought it would have some big filling, and it didn't.
It doesn't.
And by
Yeah.
the way, and that
It's just a
was
place to live.
and I was already at a place of like I wasn't using the house to fill anything for me. So I was already like at a place of somewhat peace.
Mhm.
Um, and it didn't really affect me. I was proud of myself, but so then I,
Mhm.
I say that to say like there's certainly people who have certain holes in them, and they get a uh, they think that the physical thing will fill that, and they're even more disappointed. So I was glad the house. I was certainly proud of myself, but I hope I'm not rambling. Does this get edited?
No, this is awesome because I was one of those people. I used to think, "Oh, I'll get the new BMW and I'll feel great." And then I
Yeah.
would get it and be like, "Okay, now what?"
Yeah, no, but what's crazy? I remember the first time experiencing that, right? On my first tour. And like they gave me I used to, before I went on any tours, I was like, yo, soon as I get my tour laminate, a place on the bus, and the tour phone, which was a BlackBerry, I was like, I'm it, And I got my tour laminate first day. I got my spot on the bus, and they gave me a BlackBerry. Um, which was the shit at the time, and it did
Yeah.
nothing. Like I was
Yeah.
like, oh, cool. It didn't do. Sorry, it was cool to have, but it didn't do like,
It wasn't
um,
fulfilling. It was just cool to
right,
have.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Um,
Were you
but
born
yeah,
and raised in New Orleans?
no, I'm born and raised in LA.
Oh, okay.
I went to college in New Orleans. A lot of times people think that I was born and raised in New Orleans, but I was born. I was born and raised out here in LA, which obviously I think helped me a lot with my outlook on certain things. And I think,
Well,
yeah, I
no,
think
let me let you finish that thought.
LA certainly helped. I'm always grateful I was born here and I didn't have to um, transplant here, because I know I can only imagine what it's like to come from another city or whatnot as an adult. Like I went as a college, but even when you're going to college, you're going into a community. Sometimes if you come as an adult, and you don't have a footing or anything, it's like it could be nervous. You don't know where to go, where to
Yeah.
start, or you don't know if you're going the right places to start, or if you're on the right crew and whatnot. So yeah, but yeah, I was born and raised here.
That must have been culture shock to go from LA to New Orleans. It's very
Um,
different. It's much
it was
slower. It's
it was. I wouldn't say it's slower. I would say it's almost
really
faster. Yeah, certain
wow.
parts of
Okay.
it. So, um,
Wow.
I think certain places were slower. Like where I went to school was slower, but the city was faster.
Interesting.
For me, growing up, uh, I was always like around a lot of different people and whatnot. So I think it. You know what? It takes a lot to shock me.
It does.
It takes a lot to shock me. Um, so it was a culture shock, but nothing I wasn't. I
It
was
didn't
still
phase
I
you.
was still I was still a teenager, so it was still developmental.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
And it's such an amazing music city. So if
for
you liked
sure.
music and you went to New Orleans, that had to be like just awesome.
It was an amazing fun city, which was the most important part for me at that time.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Do you manage other artists as well, or do you focus on just one?
No, right now, like I'm looking for more artists to manage. So
Okay.
right now our roster currently is definitely more producers. We have some developing artists. I don't manage Gerald anymore. So I started managing him like 3 years ago.
Okay.
So um yeah, so I don't manage him anymore, but I still sometimes I go back and forth with management, right? Because management can be super fulfilling. There is a whole draining side of it when it's not like
Who is there?
reciprocate that when not reciprocated, it could, you tell people you seem sometimes you hear people say, yo, management is not worth it, this and that. But I don't think that's true because I've been in it when it was super fruitful, super like fun, and I still enjoy it with the right people. And so, no, I certainly enjoy it because I have a lot of friends who do it. There's always the brouhaha that comes with it, that comes with
Yeah.
anything in life.
Yeah.
But I certainly enjoy it. I think in terms of equity, there's other ways to make money that
Absolutely.
that that you're protected much longer. But I enjoy managing certain things. Like if I can bring value to it and I'm passionate about it, I certainly enjoy it. If if it's a slight bit inconvenience, and by inconvenience I don't mean um, normal artist craziness, because again, you know what you're signing up for. But if it's I have a much lower threshold of what like I'm willing to deal with at this point, and
Of course.
that's not because of like success. That's not because of money. It's because of peace.
I can't put a value on peace. It means more to me than anything.
Yeah, for sure. And that's
Yeah.
not saying everything's going to be fucking woosah,
No.
like Hakuna
No.
Matata or whatever the phrase is, but it's
Right.
like when something is
A
worth it.
miss
Yeah,
or something is just doesn't feel right. Or I don't mind the issues that are real. I mind when people are like self-sabotaging and then I have to clean it up.
yeah. That is my I think that's my main thing is the self
Yeah.
sabotage, because
Yeah.
I don't care who you are unless you're the biggest artist in the world. A team is always has to fight for you. A team always has to fight for you, and it's never a great feeling to feel like you're fighting the world for your client and also fighting with the client. You know,
Yes.
and I won't say
Yeah.
like fighting, because again, like there's disagreements are healthy. That's how you get like certain points of views out.
Yeah. It's how you
That's
learn.
that's how you learn. So
Mhm.
it's never any type of my way or the highway, um, which I've been accused of so frequently of having that that outlook. Certain times you're right. And yeah, I'm very much like if you this is my plan and let's roll with it unless you have another plan.
Right.
You know? Um,
And it better be better.
yeah, and yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just
Yeah.
but correct.
Yeah.
And
Are
if I
there is
start
there
rambling, I apologize
you're
because I
you're
am a
you're
rambler.
absolutely not. You're absolutely not. If you were, I would jump in and stop you. No, you're doing great.
Okay, fine.
Um,
Thank you.
is there a part of management that's more challenging?
I think the most challenging part that I've encountered with management is just having your client. Oh, sorry. The most challenging part is when the client doesn't listen. You know,
Yeah.
I think that would be my most challenging part. Everything else is like everything else is easy. Whether it's dealing with promoters, everything else is easy. That's everything else is the part of the job. Like I can't say
Yeah.
anything. I can't say anything is more challenging. I'll say it was challenging when your vision and your client's vision doesn't align.
That's hard.
Um,
Yeah, that's hard.
because whenever I think like how to maximize, or how to create scenarios that help maximize what you have going on or what you don't have going on, but keeps you like somewhat relevant, right? And so I think wait, did you ask the most challenging part or the most difficult part?
Yeah. You're answering
Okay.
exactly what I asked.
Okay,
You're
yeah. So
nailing it.
I
Yeah,
think
you're nailing it.
that's the most difficult part when it could be stuff so simple um, that will make an impact and the person doesn't want to do it and not doesn't want to do it because I would never tell a person don't be true to themselves, right? Because
Right.
authenticity is the most important part. But I've always encouraged people like not to. I don't want to say get out of their comfort zone, but I say expand their comfort zone. Um, yeah, because I used to think, damn, how could this artist fuck this shit up? This is before I was in management, right? And I used to think, well, if artists just listen to their fucking manager, a capable manager, like everything could just go. Like it could all be so simple. And then pe- I've seen people who things are just all so simple,
Yeah.
And by simple, I don't mean like I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with certain teams. I'm not saying it's all like rainbows and jolly, but there's just certain things that this is smart timing wise. They did that smart, this and that, and so yeah. But there's a few clients that I certainly love managing, you know, that I'm blessed to work with.
That's awesome.
They make it simple.
And it means that you
Simpler.
love what you do, or simpler, yeah, because
Yeah.
nothing's easy.
Yeah.
Nothing is easy.
Yeah.
We're dealing with people. We're not dealing with widgets in the music industry.
Hmm.
We're not dealing with cans of water or soda or bottles of wine. They're human beings that think, act, and feel. So, yeah, it's a walk in the park when everything's going well.
Yeah, for sure. That's why they
Yeah,
always say it's all good until it's not.
exactly. Exactly.
Hmm.
What do you look for in a client? Like if you're looking for someone to manage, what do you look
It's
for?
for sure. It's for sure evolved over the years, right? Like what I look
I'll
for
bet
might
it
be
has.
different than what some of my team looks for. But what I look for is one, um, people who are persistent, and I realize that talent and potential is not enough. I realized that some time ago, and every time I'm like, damn, this person is super talented. There's a whole host of things that have to work for it to go. You know what I'm saying? So I look for people that either check the boxes or there's a trajectory of uh, uh, there's a they might not be there yet, but they have all the ingredients that would eventually check the boxes. move in the right direction under your direction. I look for people who engage a fan base. That's super important for me. I look for
Yeah.
people who have a plan or are willing to come to you arms wide open for a plan.
Right.
And then I just look for people who appreciate. Yeah, because and below,
I
like,
secretly wanted to say, have you found them yet?
yeah, no, for sure. I have, so like
That's so rare.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's under all of that. Of course, the most important part is talent. But
Yes.
the talent is
Yes.
where it used to be the
It's not
top.
enough.
Right. Yeah. So, nor should it be enough. So, I also look for
Yeah.
people who understand that their talent is just not enough,
Right.
and they're willing to look at their peers, and I'll call them competitors because this is a competitive thing, and are willing to do what their peers and competitors to the left and right are doing. And by willing to do, I don't mean do something out of like, just because this person is doing that, you got to do that. But understanding, well, if this person is doing it and they don't have to because they're so massive already and you're not there, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing it. And by doing it, that doesn't mean doing it the exact same way. That means doing it in a way that's true to you, but still fucking doing it.
Right.
You know,
Right. Yeah. I took that to mean an artist who's willing to outwork everybody.
either outwork everybody or outwork themselves.
Or outwork themselves. Yeah.
And that's something
Yeah.
that look, I have to remind myself that too, because sometimes I get in a slump of um feeling fulfilled, feeling unfulfilled or feeling like uninspired because it's important. Like
Mm.
when you have something that you'll give anything for day and night, it's nothing like that feeling. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because then it's just like,
Yes.
oh, it's not even work. It's just fucking a mission.
Yes.
It's you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You're right. There's nothing like that passion that drives you.
Yeah.
Because
Because
even when
it's
shit hits the
wonderful
fan, it's okay because you've got the passion and the motivation
for sure.
fueling it. Yeah.
And yeah, and you got to have passion and motivation because in this thing, there might be years where you don't make any fucking money coming up.
Correct.
So to do that, I mean, but that's like any body starting off, like 18, 19, 20, even though I didn't get my first check till 6 years. Sorry, my first check from managing till 6 years in.
Took me 6 years too.
Yeah,
And then it took me 10 years until I could like really support myself, like till I
yeah,
was comfortable.
for sure.
6 years was just a check.
6 years was legitimately um, a check that didn't have to just be reinvested.
Right. Right. Right.
Like a
Right.
check that's like,
Right.
oh, okay, cool. This is the
Right.
money to reinvest, and this is the money I
Right.
got from
Exactly. And then for me, it was 10 years
2014.
until
I think it was the first like check we got.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. I also wasn't part of a company, and that probably played a role in it. But it took me 10 years to get to a point where I could like invest outside of music, like
Mm.
where I could, go to Paris for a week and not feel it.
You know what? I took my first like not paid for European trip only 2 years ago. I've been going for like
Wow.
12 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually, afforded the opportunity to not only manage but to tour manage, and so that like took me a lot of places.
Oh,
So
that's
that was
awesome.
cool. That was
Yeah,
cool.
that's awesome.
You know,
Where's the coolest place you've been? Do you have a favorite place?
professionally or personally.
Either. either.
Personally, I think my favorite place is Costa Rica. It's this place called Santa Teresa, Costa Rica. I love that.
Mhm,
Um, Also, I went to Lake Como this past year for a few days,
mhm.
and that was
Beautiful,
beautiful, absolutely
beautiful.
stunning.
Yeah,
Absolutely love that. Professionally, I think my favorite place, I'll say outside of the states, might sound simple, but London is always fucking fire.
it
I
is.
I got a lot of friends in London.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a great city and it's a great music market.
yeah,
Like,
and
it's a
it's
win
super
on both.
eclectic, and they're smart.
Mhm.
They're smart. Um, they're smart, and they're like I they're hungrier for, in my opinion, they're like hungrier for music. Maybe hungrier, more appreciative. I don't know the term,
Yeah.
but they definitely appreciate.
I love that you're saying this because I just noticed this morning, right? I'm a little behind on my emails. And I just noticed this morning how many emails I receive from the UK that are music newsletters. Like, I was going through all the newsletters and I'm like, wow, like 7 of these are from London
Mhm. Mhm.
and none were from the US. I'm like, wow, that's interesting.
What are some of those you got from London?
Music Ally, or is it Musically? I don't know how to say it. Media is from London. Um, I have to go into I posted one this morning on my Instagram. The network, I think it's called.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Network Notes.
I'm typing those down.
You know what I'll do? I have your email address. If you don't mind, I'll forward them to you tonight. And if you like them, you can just hit subscribe. And if you don't, you can ignore them.
Oh, you know what? I'm not going to hit subscribe because I can't afford one more email. I can't
Fair enough.
afford one more message in my
Fair
email.
enough. I get it. Fair enough. Yep. Music Business Worldwide. I'm sure you read their newsletter.
Wait, is it,
That's out of
that's not
London.
London based though, is it?
It is. Doesn't that blow
Oh
your mind?
wow,
Yeah,
MBW.
right?
I didn't realize that. I did not
Yes.
realize that.
Yep. Yep. I know I knew that for a while, but today was the day that I realized, wow, all of these newsletters that I'm getting. And then I get Bob Lefsitz, he's from California.
Hmm.
But other than him, I think most of the stuff that I read is from the UK. And I
Hmm.
didn't realize it. It's almost like they're more excited to share than we are over here.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's true, but it feels like it.
Yeah. Well, also there's so much like I didn't know Music Worldwide was out there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe yeah, I don't know. Maybe the way they share is differently. I don't know, but are more in depth.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that hit me this morning. So are you more long-term vision or short-term vision?
It depends. Right now, it depends on what. It depends on what. Like I think it's important to have a long term vision. Right now, until the long term, I think it's important to have the long term vision up, and then like once you have it up, then you figure out how to work towards that through a series of short term.
I love that answer. Yeah, to get there.
Yeah, you know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you could give to like a do-it-yourself artist or an independent artist that doesn't have a manager yet? Are there any
For
skill
sure.
sets?
I was talking to somebody about this morning. You got to cultivate what sets you apart. And that comes through like growth and trial and error, but you got to the best thing that you could do is accept that you're going to need, and this is just my opinion, and it might change as it comes out, right? But it's accept that you're going to need more than just your God-given talent. Um First and foremost, because it's just not enough. There's people who are less talented who index in other places. Um, so that would be one advice. Start building your brand as quickly as possible. and try and build something cohesive. That doesn't mean everything looks the same, but you always got to think, yo, like I want to build something that people want to be a part of. I want to look at this picture and I want to know more. Give something that gives people a feeling through your music, through how you present yourself, through how you communicate with your audience. It got to give somebody a fucking feeling, right? So focus on that, in addition to other stuff. I wouldn't say focus on that. I say make sure you remember that because that's super duper important. Advice, I think, always try and figure out a way to communicate with your fan base. You know, and fan bases they're small, but it doesn't matter. It could just go day by day by day by day. You know what I'm saying? Um, network, network, and not in a solely transactional way, but in a way that like there's a lot of artists and executives out there trying to get it. So you have to connect and expand your network, and always remember, like it only takes one thing or two things to happen for a person's life, or sorry, not a person's life to change, but to be a catalyst for something to change. And so I just say ex- expand your creative community, network, learn every day, be a good person, be
So
honest
great
with
advice.
yourself, um, don't do drugs outside of weed, um, and realize the opportunity that you have or that you're working towards, you know, um, and find somebody you trust, whether it's a manager, whether it's a friend, whether it's a creative director. Find somebody you trust and that you will listen to that person once they've earned your trust, that you have listened to that person to have your best interest and to push you to the place that you want to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. My last question for you, and I don't want to keep too long. You've already been really generous with your time. How do you balance your life outside of work?
Oh, for me, that's not hard.
For me, that is. So you're about to educate me.
Yeah.
I'm a
Well,
severe
I
workaholic.
guess it depends on how busy you are. Um, but at my busiest, when I was home, I was just going to the beach every day, and I was writing gratitude lists every day, and I was putting myself first, not selfishly, but
Mm-mm.
reminding, because a lot of times, no, you always hear, yo, the client is first, um, which is great until you fucking realize a client could say, yo, we've been together for 20 years or 30 years or 10 years, and we've had good times, low times, won awards, made millions, or this and that, the ebbs and flows, and then be like, uh, but I want to change, you know? And which is totally fine, which is 1,000% fine. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you as the manager need to change too. But as long as you put yourself first in those situations, as long as you put yourself first, um, and that's not in a selfish way, by the way. I don't mean do stuff that benefits you more than your artist business wise. Again, the trust is the cornerstone of every relationship, right? But
Yes, it
put
is.
yourself first in terms of like, yo, making sure that you can take care of yourself. And this is something you learn as you go. This is something you learn as you get older, and obviously mental health is not that I won't say not as important when you're young, because that's a complete. I don't even know why I said that, because I'm trying to work out what I'm trying to say. But you're willing to do more younger, right? You're willing to
Yes.
deal with more shit younger, which is great because that's when you're freaking fucking putting in work and when you should be going through the shit, right? But then just make sure that uh, the balance has to be making sure you're okay. you know, um, and knowing when it's time to, yeah, the balance has to be making sure you're okay, because then, like they say, when you're on an airplane, you got to put your shit on first before you can
Yes,
take
your
care of.
oxygen mask on first, and
Oh,
then the person next to you,
yeah, you know what I'm saying. So just
because you'll
knowing
die
that
if you don't. You
for
can't help
sure,
somebody if
like
you're
you
dead.
can't. You know what's crazy? It's so crazy that I used to think that I didn't used to think or not think, but it was, could you think of therapists as like somebody who helps people all day, and then or listens to people, and then one day my therapist was like, "Yo, I go to therapy,"
Yeah,
and I was reading a book, and then um, and you don't realize that, but it's just like, oh, duh, it fucking makes perfect sense that a therapist is a freaking person too. Of course, they go to therapy.
yes.
How could they? How could
How could
they?
they not?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I say put yourself first in the least, and I'm not even going to call it selfish, because there's nothing selfish about taking care of yourself. Actually,
Correct.
but the balance has to be like every day I go outside. I don't care if it's for 10 minutes. I go to the beach every day. I'm blessed to live right there. But every day I get my outside time, even if it's 5, 10, 20 minutes a day. I'm like, yo, I got to get this, because this is like my time, and I'm a human, and I deserve it. Like, why the fuck not?
Exactly, and
Um,
it's very grounding to
for
be
sure.
outside in nature,
Yeah, and
especially at the beach and the water. It's energy.
another advice thing for balance is know that it's okay for balance, and that doesn't mean don't be obsessed, and that doesn't mean everything is roses and everything has to be uh, balanced, and don't like be obsessed and all that good shit. But no, like at the end of the day, it's like it's a job, and it extends beyond just a 9 to 5 or anything like that, which is why you have to
Yeah, it does.
extra take care of your fucking self.
Right.
And 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 you got to learn what those things are. Sometimes it might be journaling, sometimes it might be walking,
Yeah.
but as a human, you are how they say everybody has basic human rights.
Mhm.
As a citizen, you have basic fucking human rights as a human. And you can never
I
feel
love
bad
that.
about that.
I love that.
Never forget that either, honestly.
Yeah,
But it's a
yeah.
blessing. Like, that's what I got to tell myself every day. I'm just happy to be alive, and then there's ups and downs, and there's super highs, and there's super lows. But you work every day, and you just realize that you're blessed to do what you do.
And you get to do what you love, yeah, and so many people don't. So many of my friends don't love what they do,
Yeah,
and I'm 32 years in the music business, and I don't wanna quit. I don't wanna stop.
and see, that's a blessing. That's a blessing.
It's a huge blessing.
And that doesn't mean there won't be ebbs and flows. But at the end of the day,
Oh,
like
there's
when you assess,
absolute highs and lows, yeah,
it's like, oh, this is I can't see myself anywhere else.
exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't know what else to do, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have?
It depends on who this is mostly targeted to.
It's targeted mostly to up and coming artists and independent artists and
Okay,
people
great.
that wanna
Okay,
be
in
in the
that
music
case,
industry.
okay, yeah, in that case, again, you already asked, but just network, meet great people, find somebody you trust, no matter how long it takes. Have self awareness. Um, Self awareness is super important. Um, I know artists. Uh, I know creatives. I'm going to call them creatives. Some of the best creatives I know are open to feedback. Um, and these are like super great creatives, but they always want to know, like, yo, how can I make something better? And that's like the best. That's the best type of person to be, is how can I make something better? And know
Love that.
that you're not. And this part might be hard, because it might be it's tough for me sometimes too. But know that you're not your product. Um, and so,
Mm,
because sometimes everybody has an opinion on something. There's
yeah,
things that I think is super
especially in
fucking
music.
fire, and somebody might not feel it. and I put my heart and soul into certain shit, but they don't feel it. As that's not a reflection of me.
No, at all.
That's a reflection of the
It's
product.
subjective.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yes.
again, like people say, yo, this is not just a product, this and that. At the end of the day, if we're in the music business, we are selling a product. You know,
Yes.
um, a creative product, but still, so um don't tie your value to that. Obviously, there's a monetary value to that, but don't tie your self value to that. Which could be hard, which could be fucking
Yes.
hard because this shit is like
Yes.
babies,
Yes.
but be self aware. To artists, be self aware, be open to feedback, have a good time. Um, Try and be as genuine as you can, and then always uh, figure out how to connect with your fans because you might have great music, you might have shitty music, but if you don't have fans, you don't have nobody out there singing the gospel of whoever you are, and that's the most
Right.
important part
Right.
to
I
me.
love that.